A mug of tea. I like your style, Miles, the mug of tea.
There.
Great.
Well, actually, it's a coffee, and it's in my it's not in the full disclosure. I've got it in the wrong mug.
I'll let you chat to Paul, Miles. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
Talk again. All right, I'll close the door. Okay.
All right, darling. Okay.
And you're recording, aren't you, Miles? Or shall I just record it in case?
Well, I can't record on Zoom, so if you want to record it, but it'll be the opposite way around. I have it recorded full screen separately.
Recording in progress.
Oh,
Okay.
did you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Thanks,
I have to
Miles.
okay it. I've got to bring the mouse across and okay that here.
Great. Thanks a million, Miles.
But this is
right.
excellent.
Yeah. Is this sound all right?
Yes, the sound is fine.
Okay.
And to
good.
see you're wearing a rugby union football type rugby thing.
Exactly.
Is that because Ireland has thrashed England? I don't really go across these things, but I mean, might as well have a bit of a laugh, you know.
No, I played rugby when I was younger.
I used to play rugby, but I wouldn't. Let's put it this way: I think I'm better off the field than on.
I played for years for actually the Connemara, and we were called the Connemara All Blacks because we wore an all black strip.
All right.
Yeah, and so I've an interest in rugby, and I would have been doing bagman for Connacht for quite a few years when I retired, and Connacht under-20s Connacht senior team, and I worked with the Irish colleges. So that's where I met the likes of Paul O'Connell, Bernard Jackman and all them lads, so I would have an interest in it, yeah.
Just for the purpose of the recording, you are?
Paul O'Halloran, and my spirit name is called Grey Elk.
And she is down at the Azores swimming with the dolphins, is that right?
That's right, yeah. We live in the Azores now. We came here about 6 years ago or more.
Yeah. I just spoke to Corey, Patricia Corey, and she lives, she's an American, I think. And she lives in the Azores. That was a couple of days ago. And she talked about, she's going to be coming to the conference, but she's been quite regularly at various conferences here. But it's the Mer people. And, well, the first thing I was going to say, before we get onto this malarkey, what does an eminently sensible former rugby player do getting involved with a esoteric, touchy-feely, la-di-da subject like this?
Well, I can tell you, back in my time, it isn't what I had planned out for myself. I always had, since I was a kid, I'd experienced this, let's say. I could see ghosts, and they used to frighten the bejesus out of me. And then I used to dream about haunted houses and being in them. And I used to wake up having nightmares and all that kind of stuff. So I guess, you know, I was like a square peg in a round hole a lot of my life. But I ran away to the army. When I didn't run away, I joined the army, and I always wanted to be a soldier for some reason. So I joined the Irish Army. I did 9 years in it, and that time...
Is that a full tour of duty, or is it...
No, 3 years. You sign every 3 years, but you can do 21 and get a pension. I didn't wait for the pension. But what happened to me was... I thought when I got in there that I found my calling, and I enjoyed my time in the military. But I went to Lebanon, and the first night we landed, we were ambushed, and my best mate got 3 bullets. Survived, and we were put under the cosh a few times. Now, funny thing, being under fire wasn't, you know, I guess a big thing for you, because you're trained in a way to react, and you get into the moment and you do the stuff. It's only afterwards, I suppose, you think about things, because you don't get time to think about it. But I think the trigger point for me was one day we were come back on a patrol, and we were bringing ammunition from one camp to another. So there was only 4 of us on the patrol. I suppose they wanted to disguise that we weren't carrying anything important, 2 Land Rovers, and come back through a militia checkpoint. Just coming to the checkpoint, I loaded my submachine gun. You're not supposed to load them when you're in transit because they're very volatile. I cocked it and put it on my knee. Opened the window to show the UN, or not the UN, the Christian militia guy on the checkpoint. We showed them respect, even though it was an illegal checkpoint. My UN pass, they put an M16 to my head. And I just said, you pull, I pull. And only if I had the submachine gun cocked, I probably wouldn't be here today. But that triggered post-traumatic stress, depression, you name it. And funny enough, it didn't hit me till I left the army, but I came back from Lebanon and I was training recruits and I was doing the usual thing, but I made a decision after 9 years to leave the army. And I left. Then I was like a fish out of water for a while, and I was going through all this.
What sort of date was this? What sort of, just to give us an idea, what sort of year?
This was 1979, I think, the year. Yeah. And so I had post-traumatic stress when I got out, and I didn't know what it was. I used to wake up with the sweats in the middle of the night and the nightmares, this fellow running around after me in Beirut, trying to put a gun to my head. And I never heard of post-traumatic stress. I didn't know what it was till I met a girl one night at a barbecue. And she was after coming back from Iraq. And she said to me, can I ask you a question? She knew I'd been in the service as well. And she said, you still get the sweats? I said, yeah. What are them? That's when I found out I had post-traumatic stress. And I was in a bookshop one day, and I always went to the spiritual part of the shop I suppose I was soul searching, and I didn't know what I was looking for. And this book on Reiki fell out into my hand. I'm not telling you a lie. It kind of came out of the shelf and fell into my hand. So I bought the book on Reiki. And being a soldier and being really analytical and being, white is white, black is black kind of thing, I was reading the book and she was talking about in level 2, sending distant healing to people and animals. And she was living in an ashram at the time. And she started to explain that when they sent the energy to the deer used to jump. This blew my mind. How could that be? So the next thing, of course, I found a course on Reiki, and I did the Reiki. And there was a discipline in it that every time after you did the levels in it, you did a 21-day clearing where you put your hands on your chakras and you cleared your chakras. And for some reason or other, I stayed doing that for a year. And what happened with me on the last night, I had the last nightmare. My commanding officer, who I had great respect for, came to me and said, Paul, it's time to leave the army behind you. And that was the last nightmare I had. So I firmly believe by putting my hands on myself and putting the energy, balancing the chakras, that I released the trauma. And I never had a trauma after that in relation to post-traumatic stress or anything. So that kind of woke up something in me that there must be something about this. And I remember there was a girl on the course with us on the first level that I did, and she was all spots, acne on her face and everything. And maybe 3 or 4 months later, I met her in Galway. I walked past her on the street, I didn't know her. She was absolutely blooming. And I said, how did you get rid of all that? What happened? Oh, she said, the Reiki did that for me. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And and then I started saying, it's not doing it for me, there's no change in me. But little did I know that the energy was working from the inside out on me. It was working at a deeper level and at a slower pace. It was waking me up at a different level, So then I was handed a sheet on shamanism by a friend of mine. I think this is for you, they said. Now, I never heard of shamanism. I didn't know what it was, but I read the thing. It was about a course in Dundee with Martin Duffy. But I got excited, and I went, and I did that course. And the funny thing was that when I got there, I felt like I was coming home. I felt at home there. And of course, it brought up traumas and it brought up stuff for me. And there was one story I always tell, was the last weekend I was there. And we had what we call a power place, a tree that we would have connected with, the spirit of a tree and energy that we would have connected with through the course. We were going out to say goodbye to it. And I went out to try to barter with this energy or this tree of what, that we could still remain friends and that it still look after me and it could still talk to it. But basically it told me to feck off. So I broke down. So, like, it was bad enough to get rejection from a person, but to get actual rejection from a plant or a tree was, at that time, I felt was the lowest I could go. So I went back into the course, and I was leaving the course. I was pulling out, going, and Martin Duffy talked me down and told me to stay one more day. So I stayed another day. And in that other day, then we were doing energy work around the fairy tree. And I could feel being pulled back like this. Now, I knew the tree that I was working with and pushing away, but there was another energy that was looking to connect with me. Eventually, I connected with it. And the spirit of this tree came out and said, the reason that other tree told you to feck off was because it had no more to teach you. And it took me years to understand this lesson, and that this was saying this was your new spirit energy is working with me, for want of a better word. Anyway, it took me years to really analyse that lesson, because lots of times we get into trauma, and when the door closes in one place, we're what I call a no man's land. We don't know where we are. But if we really look forward, there's an opportunity, there's a door always open somewhere. You know what I mean? So that was the teaching I got from that tree. So yeah, you can say it was a big change from being a soldier and an instructor to talking to trees.
But did the tree say feck off, so to speak, or was it just you've got to go somewhere else?
It was saying feck off to me because it knew that I had an attachment to it, and rejection was a big thing with me in my life. So it was no more it could teach me. So the only way it could get rid of me was to say that to me. So then I was traumatized and I was angry and I was everything, you know. But you can see how nature sometimes can teach you these things if you're aware. It took me years to really realise what had happened. One door closed.
How did you realise? Because there's a whole lot of processes involved there. This can't happen unless that happens, unless this happens, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it was probably on maturity over years that I look back on it and I seen, oh, this is what it means. It means that the door's closed here, like the people leave jobs, people leave marriages, people die, and there's trauma, and then we're in what I call no man's land. We're traumatized, but there's always some opportunity ahead if we look. It's like the journey of the warrior. He leaves off and he goes on this journey. He meets a lot of obstacles, let's say, but when he gets through these obstacles, he comes into a new land. He's bigger, stronger, wiser, that kind of way.
What drew you to the direction that you went?
Well, Miles, when I go back on my youth, I always had it. And I guess I was running from it and I was afraid of it. I used to remember waking up in the middle of the night and looking out the window and seeing 3 or 4 ghosts looking in the window at me. And it used to traumatize me thing. The dreams, like I said to you. And then another time, of course, I had to go to the shop to get the paper from my dad. It was about 8 o'clock at night, a winter's night. But I couldn't find my way home. The Fujimara hit me, the fairies. They were playing tricks with me. And I couldn't actually see the road. I couldn't. The only way I knew I was walking on the edge of the road is I could feel the chippings on the side of the road with my foot. That's the only way I knew. And my mother, I must have been gone hours and the sweat was rolling off me. And my mother came and put her hand on my shoulders, about 10 or 11 years of age. and it frightened the living daylights out of me, you know what I mean? And then, of course, I heard the what you call it, the banshee, when I was around the same age. And that was frightening as well. A lot of these things. And, you know, the hard thing about when I was growing up in that energy was you couldn't tell anyone because they think you were mad. And you had to kind of keep all this stuff to yourself. But now, thank God, things have changed. A lot of people are more open and people will listen to you. And when people come to you with these kinds of situations, or people are like growing up in communities now, maybe doing courses, and more open together and supportive of each other. But that time, it was different. And I know my mother had the gifts. My mother would talk about people that either ring or die. The phone call would come, and you wouldn't have heard from them for years. I remember one night in particular, real cold winter's night, and with a range in the house, and we're all hooked up around it, like. And this loud knock came to the door about 9 o'clock at night, a pitch black night. Mum asked me to go out to answer the door, and I did. No one at the door. I says, no one here. And she said, that's Nora down the road. She's after dying. She came to say goodbye. An hour later, someone passed by and told us that Nora was dead. You know, these kind of grew up with these kind of things.
But that's wonderful.
Yeah, but you see...
Did you know it was wonderful at the time?
No. I did not know it was wonderful at the time. It was freaking scary, to be honest with you. And then you see, you thought then, not saying that you thought you were mad, but you thought you weren't normal like everyone else. And the only place I found normality, I believe, was on the rugby field and in the army for a while. You know what I mean? But at that stage, I was running from it, you know. And,
but there's a degree of companionship in the army or camaraderie. You're sort of with a protective bunch of people.
And the same with the rugby.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's all about a team and all about... No, the great thing about army buddies, even today, lads would ring me up and say, we heard a story about a shaman. Was that you? Guys don't judge you. You're buddies. You go through crap together. You know what each other's made of. And like I always say that some of your army buddies would be closer to you than your family. You know, they've seen you at your worst, seen you at your best.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of way. But yeah, you say it's wonderful. At the time, I didn't think it was wonderful.
Well, it's because a friend of mine saw a friend who'd passed on. But this is your experience. The thing, so you notice the beings, or I didn't quite. It's the fae or the fairy. I mean, did you know that at the time? What it was?
No, I didn't. Well, I should have known because, but I didn't know when it was happening to me. What was happening till my mother explained it. Lots of nights in the winter, people used to turn up at our door, neighbours, lost. They couldn't make their way home, and my father used to tell them to turn their coat inside out to trick the fairies, and they'd get home. There was numerous people turning up at our door, but you know, that time as well, I grew up in the 60s, early 70s or whatever. There was less television and less, you know, people were more in touch and more aware of the fairies and that kind of thing, and the pishrogs and all that kind of stuff. Was people would wouldn't do this and wouldn't do that because, you know, and that came from the older generations too, and they passed that down. But
that was good that they passed it down.
Now. Pardon?
It was good that they passed it down, that tradition.
It was, yeah, because I'd hear my grandfather telling stories. He was a Shamanic, which is a storyteller, old storyteller. And he'd be telling you ghost stories and things. He'd put the hair standing on your head. You didn't need to watch a horror film. you got it there and then. You know what I mean?
Especially in a cold night and beside a fire, whatever.
Yeah, the sweat would be rolling down their faces and everything. But little did I know what it was till it happened to me. But it only happened once to me, and then of course, you know, later on in years, I made a connection with the fairies and I work with them now and again. And I'll tell you a funny story about the fairies.
Tell us all about that. This is wonderful.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of land and house healing. I'm a diviner. I do stuff in houses where there's problems with ghosts and sickness and all that kind of stuff. And maybe if you want to delve into that later, I can talk to you about it. But I was in a house anyway, and this house, one room in particular, was infested by bats, ants at another stage, bees at another stage, wasps at another. There was 5 different things that came into the room. They tried everything to get rid of it, but the thing kept coming back. So eventually I was called to the scene, and when I go outside, I divine for geopathic stress, I divine for spirit lines, fairy lines, interpersonal lines, different things that can be coming into interfering with the energy in the house. But there was a fairy line going through the house. Now, a fairy line is a pathway which the fairy use between one ring fort and another. It's their walkway. So in olden times in Ireland, what happened was there was 2 ways you got planning permission. They used to watch where the cattle slept in the field. They knew cattle wouldn't sleep in negative energy, so that's where they build their house. They used to also put up 4 posts on the outline of the building. If there was 1 or 2 of them posts knocked in the morning, they knew that was a fairy line, so they wouldn't build on it. That's how the old folks actually acquire their planning permission, believe it or believe it not.
But that was a good way of doing it, because you're engaging with the Fae or whatever.
You're engaging with the energies of the Fae. You're
communication there, and then there's respect.
Yes, 100%. And people would leave them offerings. I'll tell you another story in a minute. But anyway, to finish this one, I was brought into the house. So then I realised, I said, there's a fairy line going through this house. The fairies don't want you here. And she said, what do we do? Well, I said, now, have you a bottle of whiskey? She said, I have. I said, give me 2 glasses. So I got a small drop of whiskey from a cell, and I filled one. And this fairy, I see them like dwarfs. I don't see them very small. Sat beside me, and I said, we have to talk about this and see, can we come to an agreement? That's the best way with them. Anyway, I got a thump on the other shoulder, and I looked around. There was another lad sitting at the other side. You want to be getting another glass, he said. He's got another glass, right? So I kind of explained to them this, that these people built this house here. They were ignorant of the fact that there was your pathway was going through here, and that they were disturbing your flow, your energy. And I said, look, they're trying to rear a young family, and maybe we can come to a deal on this. And they said, okay, what do you want to do? So they said they need to leave a bottle of whiskey out and the next 3 full moons and a bit of tobacco for us. And I said, okay. So if we do that, I said, if you do that, if they do that, make a commitment to that, will you leave them alone? They said, we will. So anyway, I went out to move the line from the house, because I know how to do it. When I went out, they had the line moved, and the people haven't had a problem since. That's the story.
And so, would you see, I mean, would the glass rise up, or would they drink
No.
it?
No. The glass would be there. So what you do with the glass afterwards, you spill it out on the ground, and they'll take it from there. When they get the bottle of whiskey, you empty it out on the ground. They'll take the energy from there. They work that way. So I was running a weekend, just kind of a fairy workshop to make people aware of them and things. And we went out and we bought out whiskey and we bought out tobacco and everything. But there was a big cliff at the back of where we were working, and this girl, she was like a cat. She climbed the cliff, and she came down and she said to me, a funny thing, she said, you wouldn't believe it. And I said, what? She said, halfway down, she said, could smell whiskey halfway up the cliff. And I said, that was the fairies that were after drinking the whiskey here and they were going back home. So yeah, amazing, man. Amazing stuff. You know. But
I'm fascinated by this.
It took me a long time, even though I was caught in what they call the Fuji Maro. I think that's the right word, the Irish word for it. Being tricked by the fairies. I think maybe at that age they were testing me out. And then I was drawn to sit in ring forts. I used to go to ring forts with jelly tots and tobacco and a drop in of whiskey. And I sat there for months and nothing would happen. But I knew they were testing me. And then eventually they started. You see, I believe what has to happen with them, you have to earn their trust. And they don't trust people too lightly. Because the way they've been treated, you know, like the way they're mass building, say, estates now, all that land has been taken away. So they're being pushed away and pushed out of their environment. And as you said earlier on, there's no respect for them, you know, or no thing. And
do you think that's by design against the earth beings?
Well, they're the elementals, the guardians of nature, and they're ruled by Pan. We call him, my teacher calls him Peter Pan. So when we were doing our bead ceremony, we had to go out and sit till we met with Peter Pan to connect with him, with the energy of Pan. And their energy, then he's directed to an archangel. So they have a job on the earth. There's a fascinating book, The Other Crowd, if you ever heard of it. Linehan, Eddie Linehan. He's from Crusheen down in Clare, and he went around all the old folk around that area, Clare,
so
South
just
Galway.
To be clear, what's the title of the book? And then
I think it's The Other Crowd is the name of the book. Yeah, and he gathered some fascinating stories going back like maybe 2 generations back, got the actual wording from the people. But you want to see, you know, what came really across in that, the respect the people had for the fairy world and the elementals and all that kind of energy, that people were more in touch with the land that time. They didn't have tractors or them quads they have now. You see farmers going out now, they're on quads or they're on tractors, machinery. They don't walk the land. They're disconnected from the energy. And all they're looking at from the land is yield. You know, what can I get out of it? You know what I mean? They knock all the hedges, all the trees.
And they're butchering the hedges.
Butchering them 100%.
When you see them, they're just slashing.
Yeah. There was a place I was once, just down in Galway, and this guy had, everything kept going wrong for him. And no matter what he did, he couldn't get it right. So again, I was called in. Anyway, what happened about 40 years before that, his father took 2 ring forts out of a field, and they never had luck after that. So again, we had to chat with the lads and ask them, what do we do here? What do you want? He had to build 2 mounds in the middle of the field, put stones around them, and then everything was okay. But one thing they said to me that day was this: we can let them go now. I said, what do you mean, let who go? For that 40 years, everyone that died in that village, they had their souls trapped. They held on to the souls. And I said to him, I bet you the energy in this place is really stagnant. Nothing happens here. He said, how do you know? Sure, I knew, they told me. You know? So people mess with stuff like that, and they don't know what they're doing. And the best thing to do if you don't know what you're doing is to leave it alone.
Yes.
That's
that called being away with the fairies? I mean, how are the souls trapped? Are they put into water or tanks? Or
I don't know how they were trapped, Miles, but he told me the souls were stuck. So I opened a channel to release them, and souls went through. They were able to hold on to them in some way or other. How they did, I don't know, but I just know that they were trapped. You know, so that'll tell you the power of them. So I respect them every time I have to work with them or go with them, or they come to me. There's a fella that comes to me every now and again. His name is Miles, and I can feel him here beside me now as I'm talking. I can't see him now, but and they're kind of delighted that we're talking about them and putting out the awareness about them.
Because I want to promote that awareness. This is what I like to do.
Yeah. It's the, and then, you know, when you talk about that then as well, there's a thing called the spirit of the land. You know, when I go out to do the land and house healing, energies on place, I look on the land that I'm healing as if it's like a human being, because the land holds the traumas, the imprints and the memories of things gone by. And sometimes people can be in a house and they can be just writing a topic today. I'm doing the thing online. They can be in a house and they can be arguing and fighting and different things going on. It mightn't be their energy at all. It could be the energy, the imprint of the land that they're picking up on. And I'll give you a very good example of that. I was brought out to Barna one time to do a house. They were an English couple. And when I knocked on the door to go into the house, I felt the place so unwelcome that I was going to turn at the door. I said, these people are nice. They turned out to be the nicest people you ever met, right? But what had happened when I was through the process of doing the clearing, where the porch was built in a bog hole back in the famine time, a woman and her child died.
Yeah.
So the anger, the memory, the imprint of that energy, her soul actually was still there.
Was it in the rock of the doorway, or was it in the land itself? Or
it was in the land itself.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you hear things that people put down extensions onto houses and things like that. And the next thing, they have activity in the house. They can either be disturbing energy, or there's a thing what we call spirit lines that could be running through the house. Now, spirit lines are energies that, in the famine time, say, people walked miles and miles to get food along paths, along different pathways. And they died on these paths, but their souls kept walking the paths.
Yeah.
People built houses on them, and the souls are walking through the houses. A good example of that was up near Athlone. This poor woman, every night she was going to bed, you hear all this banging and clanging, all this kind of energy going on. And she called us in, and lucky enough, there was a friend of mine home he was back with me from the Isle of Man, David Leasley. He's a shaman there. We hang out together now and again, and we do work together, help each other and share medicine and learn from each other. But the poor woman thought she was mad. It actually was the soldiers from the Battle of Akram in 1691 that were going home after the battle. Her house was built on that path. That's what it was. Believe it or believe it not.
And did they, were wounded and they died? That's why they
died, their souls, walking back home, Come across that a good few times in different places. There was another big place up in Roscommon somewhere, I think it was. People coming back from a battle as well. I forget what battle it was, but their souls were there as well, yeah,
It wasn't good in those days.
No.
You were injured, you were wounded, you probably died.
You were left there to die.
Yeah.
You were left there to die. There was no medics, no first aid, no nothing, no. People could be dying for 3 days on a battlefield.
Yes.
No more.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. God, 'twas rough, wasn't it?
Because I did body fighting. I didn't do it, but when you have no weapons or anything else, you rupture and crack bones and joints, and you're not going to die immediately. You can't.
No.
It's
No.
In some way, anyway. In some ways, a spear's a good idea. You're dead. I mean? But. So this is fascinating. I'm pleased. Explain more. And what function do you do, and with your partner in the Azores and all that? Because we have a guy here from Zena in Cornwall, and he's written a book about spirit of place in Cornwall.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by all that.
Okay, so we do many things. I teach shamanism now. I teach practitioners.
In simple, tell me what you want to convey in whatever way you want to convey it.
Yeah.
Are you limited by time? Have we got half an hour? Or what?
No, I'm not limited. No.
Well, let's just take it as you want.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we do? First and foremost, I'm a shaman, I suppose. Continue on about my journey.
Yes. Tell us a journey.
I trained with Martin Duffy initially, and then I met a guy the name Peter Von Mantiz, and the spirit name is Zanzimula. He's Samgoma, which is an African shaman, South African shaman. And I trained with him for about maybe 14, 15 years on and off. And I eventually went to Africa. Myself and Melanie went to Africa, and we were initiated in what we call the beads. The beads are the graduation of becoming a Sangoma. So you wear beads around your neck, but each bead represents an ancestor. So you wear your father's line, your mother's line. You wear the beads of the fire beings, ancestors, earth beings, ancestors, and air beings, ancestors. So we wear 4 or 5 different sets of beads. And the training that I got from him was phenomenal, because they looked on the medicine different. He was trained by the Xhosa, and I'm in the Cairo, which is a Xhosa shaman now. And I remember bringing him to Ireland to do workshops and to do healing with people. And he said when he came to Ireland first, he was afraid the way he seen the medicine in Africa that it would be different in Ireland, but it wasn't. It was the same. So he gave me a very good grounding and training, and I teach that today in my workshops and my shamanic courses, because he only died 2 years ago, and I've made a commitment to him that I spread the medicine as much as I could, and I believe in empowering people to empower themselves, to encourage them to go with it, to do it, to follow their heart, to be intuitive, and to trust themselves, and it's all about empowerment, really, and about giving people a sense. The other thing we're big on, Miles, is a sense of community. When people go through our courses, or even people want to connect with us, we believe in community and being there to support people. So I do a talk maybe once a month, Grail Speaks, and people come on it. It doesn't matter who they are. We just shoot the breeze with them. And then if they need healing or need support or need advice, we're just there as a community. It's not just me, it's everyone in it. We intermingle and we help each other. Because I just believe that, COVID and all these things and television and mobile phones and things, they break us away from being human beings with human beings, belly button to belly button, communication, talking.
That's what they're designed for.
Support, and so that's a lot of our focus. But Peter was a big, big influence. I mean, I can't tell you how important in my life he was. Now, I didn't go looking for him. We found each other, really, And then I had a chief one in Ojibwa tribe, a medicine man, a Native American, a medicine man that taught me many things, and ended up at Sundance with the Cree Nation twice, and came back with more medicine out of that, And but what I do, essentially, I do a lot of land and house healing, and sometimes you're called in there when there's a last resort. I got a girl on the phone today. She's a young woman, brilliant. I thought, there's stuff going on in her house, activity, lights going on, fridges breaking, all this kind of stuff happening. And yet she was cool. She, like most people, would be ringing you up, freaking out. But this girl wasn't afraid of it, which is half the battle. And sometimes when the souls come like that, first of all, you might notice something happening in your house, something very slight, or see a shadow passing or something like that, or feel a presence. Well, that's them showing themselves to you. Then what may happen is your watch is missing, something is missing, or something is displaced, or something is moved up on the ante. And then they up it more, because what they're actually doing at that stage, they're looking for help. And they're desperate, to get out. So actually it was a mother and a daughter that we needed to release. A mother and a son that we needed to help to release, they were looking for help to move on. See, lots of times when people die, am I all right shooting the breeze like this?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
See, lots of times when people die, Miles, sometimes they don't realise they're dead. When they die, sudden die a heart attack. There was a case one time where I had to go to a house where they called it the house of the haunted lady. And every evening at a certain time, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, they used to see this white lady walking up the pathway to the house. And what it actually was the lady was the daughter of the owner of the house. She was away somewhere and she was coming back to visit her father, but she got killed on the way. So her soul kept walking the kept walking the pathway to the house. It's like in a fishbowl. They're not in linear time like we are. So what we had to do in that case was to call on the soul of her father to come and get them together and to let her know she was dead and let her go with her father and that sort of that. So that's one example. Sometimes then you have people that when they die, they could be in a very close relationship whereby the father dies and then the mother dies a couple of months later or whatever, or when one crosses over, he wants to wait till the other one comes across. In my experience, I've never seen where they've connected. They're in two different places. So initially what we have to do with that is cross one over first, then bring that person back to take the other person home. So then there's also, I call them Far and Talavs, and in English that means the man of the land. That's like a fellow that owned a farm. And he reluctantly gave up the farm maybe to a son or someone, but the soul still stays there on the farm. And he's still trying to run operations in a way. And sometimes when the son or whoever takes over the farm is trying to renovate or to bring something new in, things start to break down. So that's another example of things, you know. And there's many I could give you. And like,
give us some examples. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, like I remember the one that comes to mind on the Far and Tallav was this was a woman actually. This woman owned this farm and she had Shirley cattle or something on it, expensive cows, and she died. And the husband that married into the farm, who was fond of the drink, inherited the farm, but basically he drank the farm as such.
Yeah.
And the farm was sold, and this couple bought into the farm, and they were having nothing but bad luck on the farm. There was cattle dying, there was things happening. It turned out the soul of the woman was still there, and she was still convinced she was alive, and that was her farm. She couldn't understand what this cattle were doing on the farm and what these people were doing on her land. So then there had to be dialogue to say, look, ma'am, you're not here anymore. And a way just for the people that need to know this, which is very important. Peter taught me this. When we're crossing souls over, we don't call on Jesus, we don't call on the angels, because a lot of the people, you know, have religious beliefs, particularly the Catholics, and they're afraid, you know, they talk about Judgment Day, that when they cross over that they're going to be judged and maybe sent to hell and all that kind of stuff. So what we do when we're crossing souls over, and these are the words that's very important to say, you call on their ancestors that are in heaven and that love them to come and take them home. So when you call on their ancestors that are in heaven or higher, you're calling on ascended ancestors. It means they aren't landlocked. Also on ancestors that love them, because not all ancestors will love you. So the ancestors that will love that person will come and take them home. When they see
that's
that
a good
person,
one. That's a very good one. That one.
yeah. When they see these people coming that they love, they have an affinity with the father, mother, brother, sister, grandfather, grandmother, they go to them straight away. And what lots of people don't realise, that when we come into this world, or we incarnate, whenever we incarnate, say originally, we write a soul contract. And the soul contract is the lessons we need to learn in the different lifetimes and whatever. So when we go back to the spirit world, one of the things we must do is tick off what we've learned and then move on. So the person that judges you, when you go back, is you, your soul. No one else judges you. So sometimes what happens with contracts, people forget to sign off on the lesson that they need to learn. So in our job, sometimes people are going around, things are going bad for them. It can be two things, either a curse or a soul contract issue. We journey to what we call the contracts office to find out if they've learned this lesson already in another life. And if they have, it can be scraped off there. So that puts that to bed. So that's an important thing that people need to know, that, you know, when you're crossing souls over, you call on their ancestors that are in heaven or higher and that love them, to come and take them home. So they'll go to them and know that there's non-judgment. That the only person that judges yourself when you cross over is yourself. So so that's what happened with that lady. I'm just trying to think if there's another one. A funny one, you know, up in Elphin, up in Roscommon, a long time ago now. I was doing a house, and
when you say you're doing a house, what, house clearance?
I was doing the clear. I was doing the divine and taking out the geopathic stress, moving the ghosts, moving all the energies, curses off the land, anything that was on it. And anyway, I seen this old fella with a cap sitting by the range, and I said to your man, I said, "There's a man sitting by the range, and he's wearing a cap," and I described him. He said, "That's my father." And then the next thing he started saying to me something about a tractor. I said, "He's talking about a tractor." And he said, "Don't tell me he's still talking about that tractor." I said, "What do you mean?" He was the first man to have a tractor in Elphin in 1946. And he said, "He's still talking about it," you know. But sometimes, you see, sometimes the souls will they'll show you a dog, or they'll show you something by the sea, or they'll show you a house, or they'll show you something, a picture, or they'll do something. And that's their way of clarifying to the person that you're talking to. That person will have a memory about that. They say, "Oh yeah, that's my father, that's whatever it is." But when I'm doing the work like that, you know, when the souls come to me like that, I don't really get into their story. I don't need to know their story, because the job is, you know, they're here, they're landlocked. It's time for them to move on and just move them on, you know. I was going to tell you another one there about, what was it? I kind of forget now. But, there was another one, another lady. She was in this house, and this poor lady had cancer. And sometimes we're called to houses where there's cancer, like a lot of the homeopaths, kinesiology people would know that geopathic stress is not good for health. So this lady had cancer, and unfortunately, I believe it was too late when we came to the house, but we went and we did. And she said to me when I went into the house, she said, "If you see any ghosts in this house, I don't want to know, don't tell me." I said, "Fine, I won't tell you." Anyway, there was a big fat woman sitting by the range again, and I knew she was a grandmother figure and that she had been in that house quite a long time. And I was trying to talk to her and act normal and move the spirit on at the same time. And eventually I moved the spirit on. The next thing, she burst out crying. I said, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "What did you do there?" I said, "Why?" She said, "What did you do there?" I said, "I moved the spirit on." And I said, "This lady is what I call a Banshee. She's a woman of the house. She didn't like you here. This was her house. And she was wondering what you were doing here." I said, "Why are you crying?" She says, "The first time in 30 years I felt welcome in this house." She could pick up on the energy of the soul, you know, the energy of the soul of not being welcome in that house. You know, which was amazing.
Was that, you said a Banshee, or the ban?
Banshee, woman of the house.
Right.
Banshee is Ban is woman and she is fairy. It's fairy woman.
Ah.
Yeah, that's the difference. So
she,
in the south, when we hear the wailing across the mountains, we call it the Banshee.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the she are the same as the fae.
The she is the same as the fairies, yeah. Right. Now, in the fairy realm as well, there is there's people called the she. Sometimes the umbrella, the she, and the fairies the same.
I'm confused. This is why
because the she people live underground. The she are about 7 foot tall, and they wear big long hats up like this, and they wear grey and they wear grey shawls. And what they reminded me of, if you've ever heard of the Palladians, they're another energy. And sometimes I see the Palladians, and I've connected with them over the years, not as much now, but I know that but the Palladians wear the same kind of hat, but it's tall and blue, now, all blue thing.
You're talking Palladian, not Pleiadian.
Palladian, yeah.
Palladian.
I think that Palladian is the way I say it.
No, but it's not what people in UFO world would call it Pleiadian.
No,
as under the
Palladians, I
Pleiades.
call them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we just need to.
Yeah. But anyway, I believe there's a connection between the She people and the Palladians. So, the She live underground, and sometimes you get them under the ring forts, and they live underground, and there's tunnels out, and you can go into them tunnels. Actually, they'll bring you into them places, and you can travel into amazing realities through them. But the She say that they're good. I feel what they are really is the two they done it when the fight was here, and one crowd had to stay above, and the two they done went underground. So when they went underground, they brought the magic with them, and but that magic is going to rise again, hopefully.
That's good. There's a lot of questions there about the differences and how to deal with them. And are there, I mean, for instance, what about the jinn? Are they the same from the Far East?
The who?
The jinn.
I don't know.
DJINN, genies from the deserts.
Genies. No,
the
I wouldn't
Far
know,
East.
and I've never come across them now, to be honest with you. But I believe.
I mean, soldiers are encountering this sort of thing in the Middle East, the Far East.
I believe that, they could be the same thing, but they come in a different form, different shape.
Yeah.
Because if you read a lot of mythology through time and everything, and about all the shape-shifting and all the different things, when people believe in archangels and they want the archangel to come, it'll come. Some other religion believes in something else, a deity.
Yeah.
It could be the same thing, but different.
It's a bit like your roll callings. I would say it's like having an orange, right? Everybody calls it an orange, but what the other people see could be like a cauliflower, but they're calling it an orange.
Yeah, 100%. I'd agree. I'd agree with that. And the way I see things and the way I'm describing things to you now, you could have someone else on seeing the same thing, but they describe it totally different too.
Well, I ran a pirate radio station called Energy 106 in Monaghan. Okay. And we were right beside the border, way up. Very good for getting into Belfast, because it was, the way Monaghan is, it's way up into the north, and it gets you a line of sight into Belfast. It was fantastic. Yeah. But it was at a place called St. Patrick's Chair and Well, which is in the north. I think it's County Tyrone.
Okay.
I mean, you're really talking about, I think you've got Armagh on one side, you've got Tyrone. Anyway, the point is, it's not too far from Ochnacloy.
Okay.
That would be the top bit, but it's he encountered these other beings. He was taken 4 times.
Okay.
There's a place called Loch Moor, and the border goes across it. So literally, you got Monaghan. It's a great place. He met little beings with cloaks on them.
Yeah.
And we were going to call. We changed the name of the radio station to Energy, because he experienced this energy, and he had his little dog with him as well.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing.
Eventually, cutting a long story short, I decided to put it on the record, and I recorded him. And when he started talking about this, the dog started barking. Oh, yeah, because the dog was taken, and the dog spoke to these beings in doggy language, and he spoke in human language, but he was gone for like 3 days. I mean, when he appeared back about 10:30, middle of the morning, in a fairy field, and there was mountain rescue out and people looking for him, and then he was quite dishevelled, but he was gone. But they told after the 4th time, they told him to feck off. He told you to go. But
you're right when you say that, because there's energy portals in different places where people can go through. I remember one day I was running a class, and we went to a sacred site, a stone circle, and I stood all the students around it and got them to tune in. So after 10 minutes I said to them, what do you feel? They said, nothing. I said, dead right, you feel nothing. The site was capped. And a lot of the sites in Ireland can be like that, capped. It's like the other forces, other energies know about this energy and they cap the site so that the energy is not used for the good of all and the portals are not open.
Is that not what St. Patrick did? He was sent to...
Well, St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, so he drove
but
the
snakes
druids
were the other side of the portal.
Exactly.
So they were open.
100%.
They couldn't.
100%.
They had control on the other side, but we didn't have control on this side.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, when people said that to me about driving the snakes out of Ireland, I say, they drove the likes of me, the shamans, the druids, and these people. But the magic is still here. The magic is still in this country. And I believe the reason this country has gone under so much suppression for so long, like, I believe there isn't a blade of grass in Ireland. I've covered a lot of it now in 30 years doing Land and House, where there wasn't a drop of blood spilt one way or the other. But I believe this is the Emerald Isle, and the green is the heart centre of the world. And I believe that this is the heart centre of the Mother Earth, in a way. And like in Ishnok, you have the cat stone, the heart stone, which is the centre again. So I believe that in a lot of over the time, the people that were in charge knew what they were doing to suppress the energy because they didn't want the magic and the power to rise.
Well, there's a brutal enemy swept from the east right across Europe, destroying all the indigenous wise men and women and of villages and civilization.
But slowly it's coming back now, and you see on some kind of Facebooks or whatever, you see these different people coming back, but some of them, especially in the Eastern traditions, bring in some simple stuff about remedies and how to use this and how to use that. And I think people now have gone the full circle in that with the materialism. Like, I've often seen very successful businessmen, and you'll be saying, you know, why are they still going? Why are they looking for money? They have everything. It's because they're soul searching. There's an aspect of them that's missing, the soul aspect, and they're trying to feed it with material stuff.
Yeah,
and I think people are starting to look now in other directions, and more of them getting into alternative medicine or learning healing techniques and things because they find it more fulfilling in a way. And, you know,
Big Pharma's got a lot to offer, a lot to...
Pardon?
Big Pharma has a great deal to answer on this.
Oh, yeah. Well, what you call is doing a good job on it in America. Robert Kennedy at the minute, he's taken them. But I think, I think a lot of about Big Pharma is coming around now. I was just talking to a lad today, and his son has depression, and I was saying to him, get St. John's wort. In the south here, you have to get a prescription for it, but you can buy it in the north. They took it off the shelves because it was working too well, you know.
Yes.
And but you can get John's wort in the field, and you can make a remedy with it and work with it that way too as well, you know, if you know what you're looking for.
I knew of I think Duffy died recently, didn't he? Did he?
Jeez, I don't know. I didn't hear that. No,
I'm not sure. There's a guy. I was at Ishnok, and it's funny they use that in Star Trek. There's a lot of things in Star Trek they pull in from. But we had a bit of an expedition with a local lady and then somebody from Lurgan. But I'm from Lurgan, and we were basically sidelined, and the trip was stopped. The whole point was to do a whole investigation and go round and see all that place. But maybe it was beneficial that we didn't. Maybe I was with somebody who shouldn't have been there. Perhaps I don't know, another friend, whatever. But
I know that they're very mindful of Ishnok, very protective of it. You have to kind of let them know you're coming, and the guy that's there. I haven't been there now in quite a while. But
this would have been by 2017, I think. God,
Yeah.
it's a long time ago now. Jeez.
Yeah, but they watch who goes in there. And I'm glad at that, because what they're actually doing is protecting the energy and protecting the place,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
In other words, if it's not to be, it's not to be.
If it's not to be, it's not to be. Yeah. But that's my story. And anytime I get a chance, when I go to a sacred site, to a place, stone circle or whatever it is, I always check to see that if it's capped, to try and uncap it, to release the energy again. Because like you said, it's, about that fella going away for the 3 or 4 days. He walked into a portal. He was taken away through the thing. If you stand between two trees pretty close together, I'm convinced there's portals there. There's energy. You'll feel the energy. You're in a vortex.
There's a place close by, and you got two trees like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to like that. And I have a friend who never walks past there. She avoids it. She talks to trees. She's Dutch.
Yeah.
And they answer back as well.
Of course they do.
And they tell us things.
They do. I remember one time going to a tree. I was going through a bad old time. It was the middle of winter, I suppose. And I went up to the tree to ask for guidance. And the tree said to me, we withdraw this time of year to reflect. So it was telling me that I needed to withdraw and sit with myself. Because lots of times the hardest thing we find to do is to sit with ourselves and to sit and be and feel and see. And the way I do that a lot is, I haven't done one now in a while, but sometimes I go on a vision quest. I go out into the mountain for 3 or 4 days, just with water, just open the space, sit with the spirits.
What's involved with a vision quest?
Pardon?
What's involved with that?
Ooh. A vision quest is... I don't go on quests unless I'm told to go. But a vision quest is where we go with a certain intention. We're looking for direction. We're looking for answers to something or other. So usually you go out into the wilderness, into the mountains, and you sit there for usually 3 to 4 days, and all you're allowed to bring is water, and you can bring, something to cover yourself, like a bit of a tent or something if the weather is wet, that you can go into it. But basically you're sitting with no distraction, and your mind, now the first 24 hours you're hungry, you're miserable, and you're saying to yourself, what the hell am I doing here, and all this kind of thing. But then eventually the mind quietens, and then stuff comes. I've had, usually when I go out, I get visitations from the spirit world or energies. But one night, I was in Ireland at the time, and I had to go to Portugal to Vision Quest because the weather was too bad in Ireland. And it was April, and I went to Lagos or whatever, Lagos I think it was.
Yes.
So I went out into the mountains anyway,
Torquay, yeah.
and to quest. And on the second night there, I had kind of half a little tent thing that I could lie back in, and I had a refuse bag up on my body so that if it rained, I wouldn't get wet. And halfway during the middle of the night, this fierce tug came on my left foot. I pulled my leg so hard that I thought someone was attacking me, and I jumped up, and my fist was like this to go, and I seen this being with long hair and pointed ears looking down at me, and I was sitting half up, and he was bent down looking at me, and all that happened was I'd say we were in that position for 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow.
His eyes it just went red, pure red, and it was like he was transmitting some energy to me. So, these things can happen. But usually I go out for answers about direction of my medicine, or where do I need to go now? What is the spirits looking for from me for now, or to enhance my medicine, or to get teachings. But the hardest thing if you're out for 4 days is when you come back and you feel all the noise and the stuff and the chaos again. It takes a while to adjust back into the reality of it, The Native American Indians would quest quite a bit.
Yes.
I'm not sure if other traditions do that, but I've been guided quite a few times over my lifetime to quest. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like mentioning other researchers. Andy Thomas did a lot of questing years ago.
You get answers. You get answers. But you see, the hard thing for a lot of people to do, you know, I do tell people on the course, you know, sit with yourself, look at yourself in the mirror. What are you seeing?
Okay, let's talk about your courses. What do people look for? How, where, what's, and why's?
Okay, so the courses, I run practitioners at Shamanic course, and that runs over 6 weekends. And that's basically it's for self-healing, but it's also to teach you techniques. Like the first weekend, we just teach you how to journey. The next weekend, we work with the water beings, the south, and we teach you some energies, how to heal, emotional healing. The next weekend is the physical, is the death rebirth weekend. The next weekend is working with the ancestors. Then we do soul retrieval, contract retrieval, working with courses, and we do vision quest. So that all takes part in the practitioner's course. So I kind of keep it kind of comprehensive in the fact that I'm teaching them different modalities, but also in that it's to try to find what sits with their soul, and they might get in the flow with a different aspect of what we teach. But we teach a lot of techniques as well, because to show them that when they go out to help to heal people or to work with people that they're able to do. But primarily the practitioner's course is to take them on a journey of self-healing and learn how to do some stuff as well. The advanced course then goes deeper. We look at a lot of the negative energies, dark energies, attachments to the body. We look at courses. We go to what we call the Valley of the Dead, because sometimes when people die, sometimes, believe it or not, and there's been a close connection between, say, me and my mother or whatever, an aspect of my soul can go with her. She could be in the Valley of the Dead, but an aspect of her soul is here with me. So it's like what we call soul fragmentation. So we have to journey into that realm, which is not a nice place to go, to get back one aspect of the soul and give the other soul back. So we learned all that. We do a lot of things on power retrieval, warrior retrieval, soul retrieval, working in sites, and I forget what else, but it's pretty comprehensive of what we do. So we go really, really deep with them within that, and also they go deep within their own journey. So the final thing that I do with people in the shamanic realm is I bring, when they are with us for 3 or 4 years, and if they're called to do the beads, like I got the beads, to be initiated as a shaman or as a sangoma or whatever, and to carry the beads, and that takes a lot of responsibility. So Melanie does a lot of stuff. You mentioned it earlier with the mer people. She does water courses, working with the water beings,
yes,
celestial beings, and all that kind of stuff, and she's birthing a lot of new stuff, and it's amazing what she's doing. We do ancestral healing. We do ancestral healing weekends. Peter was big when he was teaching me about the ancestors, and a lot of the indigenous tribes would have great value and great respect for their ancestors. So we do a thing where, like in the practitioner's course and advanced course, practitioner's course we make you aware of the ancestors walking behind you. In the advanced course, we connect you to them, so you walk with the ancestors. But there's also that the ancestors have to be healed. So we do a lot of work on healing the ancestors. We do weekends. I do actual weekends every now and again when I get a chance on ancestral weekends. So people come and we look 7 generations back. And one story comes to mind about ancestral healing. We were doing it one weekend, and this woman was beside me and she was facilitating with me. And she said, there's a fella behind your woman there shouting like hell, he wants help. I said, well, now they'll wait till it's their turn. Whatever he's looking for, he'll get it when we're ready, not him. It turned out that when we went 5 generations back in her lineage, on her mother's side, this same soul had committed suicide in that lifetime and came back 5 generations later and committed suicide again. So we hope by healing the energy 5 generations back and crossing them over, it would help with his next reincarnation or whatever. But you also get curses on the lines. You get different things where there's been falling out between ancestors and you see when the energy is alive in the ancestral line, in other words, when they haven't crossed over, that energy is still running down through your line and into your genes till it's cleared, you know. So you know, that's just some of the work we do. But if anyone wants to contact us, info@pathwayteaching.com. Pathway Teaching is our website, and we do, if you want to connect onto our newsletters, every month we send out a newsletter of what we're doing and what's happening. And every now and again, as I said, once a month I do a talk, and Melanie sometimes does talks, that if people want to join. And I just tell you just one story, Miles, about the talk.
Go ahead.
I always quote this story.
Is this held in Ireland or the Azores?
No, they come on Zoom. They can come on Zoom,
fine,
but most of the work I do is in Ireland.
Yeah,
the work I do is in Ireland. I go back about 6 times a year to do the work, and Ireland has been good to me, thanks be to God. I do work here too, but not as much. I'm trying to put a book together on land and house healing, and like I've 30 years experience, and what's motivated me to do the book is there was a man that saved my life, Dr. Harvey Wasserman. He was a psychologist many years ago. He saved my life when I was explaining to you I was going through that dark period in my life. And over that we became friends and we used to have great chats. Now, he wasn't only a psychologist, he was highly spiritual. He had amazing awareness. And I kept saying to him, you have to write the book, Harvey. You have to write the book, because if you go, you bring it with you. He brought the medicine with him. So someone else has to learn that medicine again. And whatever it's worth to me, if all I'm saying is if I can put it together, and just one person picks it up and it means something to them, that's my job done, you know. So people can come online to go on you know, if they go onto our newsletter to see what's going on, and then they get the links to go on to everything else. So pathwayteaching.com, info@pathwayteaching.com is our thing.
That's fantastic. This is music to my ears. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. I'm
engineering and tech stuff and all that, but a lot of the people I would meet would be in this kind of thing, and it's just wonderful to hear. And your experience.
Thank you for taking time out of your life.
It's wonderful, but I'm keeping hearing about these mermaid people and Zener and the Azores and this the assistant to megalithomania. I don't know if you know megalithomania. Hugh Newman. He runs this conference. It's just done 20 years, and she swims in a big tank in a Manchester nightclub or something with a big, a mermaid thing, and she swims around. She loves it.
Melanie, I must get Melanie to send you. She did a mermaid thing at the bottom of the sea. I filmed her drinking tea, pouring tea into a cup. And she's got it. I don't know, got a heap of hits. And she said she was doing it again this summer. I'll get her to send you that now.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
If you ever want to talk about the mermaids and about Melanie was initially a marine biologist.
Oh, the old marine biologist thing.
Yeah. And
sorry, I have to do this. Oh, the old marine biologist thing.
Yeah.
Let's put a bit of a swing on that.
Then she came to this one. She does a lot of work with the mirror. She does a lot of work with the water beans and things like that. She gets symbols and everything. And now she's running a course in it, and it's going very well, Well,
it's when you. I told there's a pub down at Zener, and there's a bay, and it's meant to have the. This is way south Cornwall on the north coast.
Yeah.
It's one of those places where the south and north coast are only about a stone's throw away.
Yeah.
Anyway, they seem to be knocking on the door, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like London buses. You don't come in one G; they come in threes, and they're all empty, all full. Whatever it is, it's an old phrase.
Yeah. And
there's a signal there.
Yeah. I just want to say to the people as well, it's very important that you believe in yourself. Trust your intuition. You see, long ago, Peter told me this, where the gut feeling came from. The medicine men used to see through their gut first. and the gut is linked to the brain. So then eventually, as we evolved, the third eye came into force. But that's where the gut feeling come from. I never forget Sylvia Ballesteros was being interviewed on television one time, and they were asking him about how he was so good around the greens. And he said, I go with my first thought. He goes with his intuition. He didn't second guess.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So, just believe in yourself, stand in your power. And it's all about your, if you want it to be a bad day, it'll be a bad day. If you want it to be a good day, it'll be a good day. So you have choice in that,
I listen. I need to practice.
Yeah. It's like the Indian said, the chief said to the young fella, he said, there's two wolves in you. Which do you want to feed? The angry one or the one with love?
That's more pearls of wisdom there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is wonderful.
Thank you, Miles, and I really appreciate you taking time out.
It's a delight.
To talk to
Absolute
me.
delight.
Hopefully we'll meet sometime.
Yes.
I do be in the north quite a bit because Mellie's...
I'm not in the north. I'm in Wiltshire here.
Oh, you're in Wiltshire?
Yeah, okay. I'm in Wiltshire beside Stonehenge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the family home went and all things sort of thing happened, and you got to move on. Oh, something's happened. You've muted. Oh.
No, I didn't mute, no.
No, just suddenly
internet. It's internet connection.
Right.
It's all right. We'll leave it at that.
Maybe somebody was trying to give us a little bit of a hello.
Yeah, you never know.
Good.
Good.
Bless you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Bless you.